Beattie, I'll come to you first. It seems like this Liverpool side, not just the squad, but also the fan base, the whole club in general, needs that energy reinserted back into that stadium, doesn't it? In terms of style of play, is that something that Iraola can offer this team?
Absolutely. I think if you look at Bournemouth's style of play over the course of the 2 seasons, you go back to his teams at Rayo Vallecano as well. It was a team of actions. It's a very sort of Spanish way of describing it, but just actions all over the pitch. You put more crosses in. He even says, you put 3 crosses in, 1 is bound to hit the target. You put enough challenges. You commit enough fouls. You take enough yellow cards. You hit enough shots. You just go, 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 go. It is a chaos-based style of play, which is sort of very interesting, I think, to bring to players at a higher level, because higher level players are more capable of controlling a game. Do you want to introduce the element of chaos? Well, I think Liverpool, it is sort of fascinating. Here we see the most possessions won in the attacking third. Bournemouth are 4th behind Brighton, Arsenal, Manchester City as well. I think what you want to introduce as Liverpool is what the fans loved about the Jurgen Klopp era. And it is kind of fascinating that there are a few clubs in world football that are associated with a style, not just success, but a style. Liverpool, I never really thought to be one of them, but Klopp had such an imprint on the club that now they want to get back to a Klopp style of play. I'm not certain that there's a complete similarity to Iraola and Klopp, but there are some principles, and most importantly, it's all about the action and the intensity and getting that Anfield crowd going.
Yeah, Lahoud, what can fans expect from this Liverpool side if Andoni Iraola were to go there? It looks like he's set.
And Woody, you touched on something that's going to be massive. The reason, in my opinion, that Arne Slot got the sack is he lost favour and really lost Liverpool fans, full stop. You can say he lost Mohamed Salah, which that happened months before, but it was what he lost in terms of the buy-in with Liverpool fans as a whole that you now go and get Iraola. And so we're going to go and watch how Iraola and Bournemouth played against Manchester City. So this is their average starting positions. Are you kidding me? This is their fullback, Adrien Truffert, who's actually one of the most underrated fullbacks in the Premier League. You build in a 3-2, and the biggest adaptation that he made in the second half of the season, and it's why Bournemouth won 17 matches unbeaten to finish the season, is you get the likes of Scott and Tyler Adams being your insurance policy, and then it frees up your fullback to go up in the high line. And Jen, I know that you know this as someone who's marshaled back lines and also marshaled midfielders. How significant is this to see a fullback this high, and then just the domino effect is your wingers then can play in the half spaces as you see at Tavernier?
Yeah, I mean, it's high risk, but high reward. And I think we saw the stats earlier of winning. When you win the ball that high up at the pitch, and you also have your attackers, fullbacks higher up, just more likely to give that attacking edge. But I think that the communication has to be so key, like you're saying, from the centre-backs when you do release your fullback. And you have to be so sure that those midfielders recover if the ball does break down, which I think that's why they were so successful this last season. And obviously well coached and well managed, because that is drilled from the training ground, where the press is, who's the trigger. But 100% for those to be your starting positions, because that's always the biggest key for me in a press. Where do you start? If you don't get your starting position right, everything else break down. That chain reaction can break. So that to be that high from the off, just it's the perfect graphic, actually, to showcase why they were so successful the entire season in doing so.
And we're going to see it in real time, because this is against Manchester City, mind you. This was actually the match that gave Arsenal the Premier League title. I know you were on that coverage for Scoreline. So Bournemouth, for as good as they are on the press, they want to just lull you to sleep, get you to get numbers forward, and then it's all about the outlet to the fullback in Truffert. And we're going to just wind it back a bit if we can, because there's just some key principles in this when we look at it again. If we just pause it right there, the big thing that I see is typically in the modern game, most managers, as we go back and see it, most managers, as we get right there to the ball on Scott, if we can just pause it there on Tavernier and Scott, most managers will tell you that's supposed to be a fullback that's supposed to give that width in that lower position. And we pause it there. This is typically a fullback that's there. Most teams would have Truffert down in that half space, almost saying, okay, if we lose the ball, what happens? With Iraola, he forces and encourages his fullbacks to go with reckless abandonment and really trusts that they have the decision-making and the numbers with Krupi or Evan Nielsen or Rayan to get in to put the finishing action.
And also in those positions, if I'm looking at Tavernier in that position as well, you wouldn't go as forward as fast as that. A lot of teams would possess the ball, reshape, regain a better position across the entire possession-based style of football. that is going forward really fast as possible. Again, attacking threat. That's a style of play. That's an identity which could be very, very useful for Liverpool. Obviously, they've players gone out the door, but that forward attacking fast has been key.
Yeah.
The one thing, too, when you look at Bournemouth is they're roughly a 50-50 possession team. The one thing I'll be curious about is if they play as quickly as that and they go and they go and they go, how often are they giving the ball away? And will that be sort of a source of frustration? Or do you see a team with a higher level of quality in Liverpool be able to sort of manage those quick passes better, complete them more often, and you're not quite giving the ball away in bad areas?
Iraola needs to go all in to find goals, especially Lahoud with the loss of Mo Salah.
Yeah, Mohamed Salah is, for me, Liverpool's greatest ever player. I know people feel differently about it. Steven Gerrard, Kenny Dalglish, some people have even said Ian Rush. But for me, what he's meant to this club, just as an icon in terms of bailing them out with big moments. They don't win the Premier League title the season before without it. Andy Robertson came out and said, he pretty much put us on his back. But the drop-off is one thing. To be part of 22 goals, okay, it's not vintage Mohamed Salah, but the issues in attack go deeper than that. Watching at the end of the season, Liverpool fans were not having the likes of Cody Gakpo. The reason being, 1 goal in his last 16 matches. It ain't going to cut it in the Premier League. It certainly isn't going to cut it in the Champions League. But then you also think about some of the injury issues they had and they will have going into the new season. Ugarte Ekitike, my opinion, their best attacker from last season. That is now 17 goals you'll be without till the month of January. You can't afford to have a slow start. So the big question is, where are the goals going to come from? That enters Alexander Isak and Florian Wirtz. Maybe you get more goals from midfield, but this is really the year of Alexander Isak for me. You and I covered the recent friendly between, I think, Sweden and Norway. It was so refreshing, and I immediately thought about it, watching him coming off the pitch and just get a goal where he created something out of nothing. Liverpool need Alexander Isak, the same Isak that got Newcastle United the Carabao Cup and got them in the Champions League. They can't afford to have him injured because you look at just the lack of goals and the lack of just consistent numbers between these three from last season. It's not good enough.
No, it's not going to be enough at the start of next season. With Isak, you wonder if sort of the fresh preseason, the fact that you put the transfer nonsense to the side, you can actually prep in the way that you should for the beginning of the season. You wonder how far Sweden will go at the World Cup. But the thing is that because of the Ekitike injury, they do look a little bit thin in attacking areas. This puts a lot of pressure on Rio Ngamoa as a player who will have to come in. And honestly, they might have to go sign another attacker, which is crazy considering the amount of money they spent on Wirtz and Isak in the first place. So I think you see needs on every line for Liverpool going into next season, which is not what you would have thought after the amount that they spent in the previous summer and the fact that they won the Premier League title the season before.
Yeah, Jen, what's another issue that Iraola may have to face potentially more defensively?
I think I want to start with the bigger picture identity-wise, because under Klopp, they were this really intense team, pressing high up the pitch. Arne Slot was a little bit more control, but for me, that brought indecision. And what happens when you have indecision higher up the pitch? It just left stalwart defenders like Van Dijk a little bit more hesitant, much more exposed. Your player likes of the usual Andy Robertson higher up the pitch, not returning as quick enough. It just for me that we saw players like Frimpong, like Van Dijk in positions running 50 yards back, much more exposed. And the hardest thing to do is running back 50 yards and trying to defend. And I feel like the fullbacks were so high up the pitch, got caught. And I feel like they have to make additions, for sure. It's strong defenders, but is it an aging team? Van Dijk didn't have his best season, but we still know what he's got in him. He is still one of my favourite centre-backs in the Premier League. We know the levels he can get to. But for me, it just looked really disjointed when you don't have your forwards, midfielders covering in the right areas. It just didn't look like the identity that we were used to seeing from Liverpool in previous seasons. That was my biggest worry when I've watched them.
Yeah.
But is there not a worry, though, Jen, with the fact that you look at this system that we just showed you, Liverpool playing higher, Liverpool playing more aggressively. That leaves Van Dijk a lot of space to cover. And if physically he has taken that slight step back, is that a worry for you that he is going to be too exposed, that in a new setup that prioritizes him and him covering space even more?
I do get what you're saying, but for me, the exposure came from indecision higher up the pitch. If you are playing in a high pressure, because I've been in that situation as a centre-back when you are the last player, but if every single player is high up the pitch, gets that decision-making right, those moments are far fewer. And there's a big difference between 1 or 2 moments and 10 to 15 across a game or across a season. and I felt like there was just far too many, and you are going to make mistakes in those moments. But when they are reduced and that press is much more efficient, it works. Everyone's on the same page. You're not going to see him in many moments like that. So for me, it was more the indecision rather than the amount of times he was exposed.
And that's why recruitment, we come back to. Recruitment is going to be the thing that changes everything for Liverpool. Remember, they're also spending 80 million on Jeremy Jacquet, who will be, in my opinion, a big improvement on Ibou Konate, because personally for me, the last season and a half, Ibou Konate was not worth the squeeze. But when we look at Liverpool and what they'll look like next season, this is a full-strength Liverpool side, obviously, with Hugo Ekitike. The strength of this team is just in the front line alone. My big question mark was, where's Florian Wirtz going to go? We know that this midfield three had their issues, Witty, in terms of the lack of press, in terms of the lack of just mobility, in terms of the lack of ability to cover in transition. But man, these three, Florian Wirtz, Alexander Isak, and Hugo Ekitike, if you can get buy-in from them, I think if you can implement this Iraola verticality in terms of playing front foot football, getting the ball from back all the way through the midfield, sometimes bypassing it, getting your fullbacks bombing forward, and ultimately getting service to your front three, there's a ton of goals in this.
Yeah, for me, the one thing, though, when you look at this Liverpool side, and I just think that they have issues with balance. You look at Kerkez and Frimpong, they're both attacking fullbacks. They both want to get forward. I don't think Frimpong is a right back and a four. I think he's a wing back, and honestly more of a winger. I wouldn't be surprised if he starts next season as the right winger. Florian Wirtz plays off the left because he's always been comfortable there for Bayer Leverkusen, and then you have to find an answer at right back. Someone who's a little bit more like Smith there for Bournemouth, and his positioning where, yes, everyone is coming forward, but he's still kind of linked with the back three and is the one that stays. They need a fullback who stays, because I think if it's both of them going forward, there's just way too much to do for those central defenders. So I think they need to find a right back who actually provides defensive solidity and cover rather than complete attacking abandonment.
I agree with everything you're saying. When we look at what they do have, Milos Kerkez played under Iraola.
Right.
It's a big reason why he got the move to Liverpool. There's a lot of similarities between Kerkez and Truffert. The biggest beneficiaries for me for Liverpool under Iraola are going to be the two wing-backs and the two full-backs, because by nature, they want to bomb forward. And I agree about the balance. That's why you need to get someone in the market. For me, Lamine Camara at Monaco would be sensational. But the two full-backs, higher starting positions, leads to more goals.
Thanks for watching this video from Morning Footy. For all news and insights regarding leagues around the world like EFL, Serie A, and all UEFA competitions, both men's and women's, don't forget to sign up for Paramount+.